On today's episode, I'll dissect Connor Bedard's first NHL hat trick and how he looks different here in year 3. And then I'll also discuss Oliver Moore and Nick Lardis continuing to excel down in Rockford.
You're Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Blackhawks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jack Bushman, also Blackhawks beat writer for Chicago Hockey Now. Right off the jump, have to let you all know that today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Go and download the Game Time app now, create an account, and then use our promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get $20 off on your first purchase. Connor Bedard has his first NHL hat trick. Blackhawks fans thought it was only fitting to go and toss the Bedard sweater on here this morning as he backpacked the Chicago Blackhawks to a 7-3 win over the Ottawa Senators last night after Ottawa scored 7 goals in back-to-back games. The Hawks go and put 7 goals up on their head and earn the win for the 5th time in their last 7 games here ahead of the upcoming 6-game road trip. Big bounce-back win by the Blackhawks at the United Center after, as even Connor Bedard called it during his post-game interview with Darren Pang, a disappointing loss to the Los Angeles Kings on Sunday. And it was Bedard who led the charge for Chicago as he continues to look different and simply better than ever here in his 3rd year in the NHL. And it was awesome to see Bedard break out of his, mini goal-scoring slump that he was going through as he only found the back of the net once since the home opener back on October 11th. He beats Linus Ullmark, the man who he scored his first NHL goal against in Boston against the Bruins a couple of years ago. He beat him another 3 times last night, with all 3 coming on absolutely beautiful wrist shots. And not only does Connor Bedard look faster than ever here this season, not only does he look feistier and is more well-rounded and stronger on his skates than ever, but I also think, even though the shot has already been a strength through his first 2 NHL seasons, I also feel like he's improved in this area as well, as all 3 goals that he scored last night were absolute beauties, highlight reel type of goals. The first one coming from the right dot on the power play, by the way, is Andrei Burakovsky, who is also bumped up to the top power play unit. 2 changes made by Jeff Blashill at practice on Monday wind up paying off on the lone man advantage opportunity that the Hawks get in this game. Burakovsky sets up Bedard, and Andrei's been one of the best power play producers for the Hawks so far this season. Finds Bedard at the right shot, and he showcases that he doesn't need the one-timer to go and score goals on the man advantage. Absolutely houses a shot over Linus Ullmark's left shoulder, put it in like a baby gap that only few players could in this league. Awesome goal for Bedard to get on the board for the first time in the night. Love to see the top power play unit changes wind up paying off immediately. The second goal was probably Bedard's best of the game here and might have been one of the top highlights of his career thus far, as he went coast to coast on a rush, diced through the Senators defense right down the middle, and then beat Ullmark once again with a curl and drag wrister. This time, though, going low to the blocker side. And I've talked on the show a handful of times about how Bedard can improve his goal-scoring abilities. He needs to go and have more of a diverse makeup in his shot selection as opposed to just ripping shots glove high every single time. Yes, that is his bread and butter. And yes, he has such a darn good release that he's still going to beat goaltenders anyway if they know where it could be going. But I do think in order for Bedard to take that leap and become a first-time 30-goal scorer, maybe even a 40-goal scorer here this season, who knows? He's got to diversify his shot a little bit, and I loved him going low blocker here on this rush as opposed to his kind of typical glove-high shot selection. Mixed it up on Ullmark, looked to fool him a little bit. He finds the back of the net for the 2nd time in this game and the 5th goal for him on the season. And then in crunch time, even though it probably shouldn't have gotten down to crunch time, as I'll get into here during segment 2, with the Blackhawks reeling a little bit and needing a spark. A great face-off win, by the way, from Ryan Green in the offensive zone to make it all happen. And Bedard was waiting right behind him. Roofs another beautiful wrister that Ullmark didn't really have a chance to save with his glove. This thing was an absolute bullet to record his first NHL hat trick. Love to see a great celly out of Bedard as well. And it felt like a breakout game was coming for him with the way that he had been, getting pucks on net frequently. He had 19 shots on goal in his last 4 games coming into this one, 28 total shot attempts. But I don't think we expected Bedard to go and have the performance that he did. One of the best of his NHL career, a career night with his first Hattie, would also go on to add a primary assist on Ryan Donato's insurance goal late in the third period. Bedard looks better than ever, and that's a good sign for us Blackhawks fans. Love to also hear Nick Foligno shout out Bedard during his post-game interview, calling him elite, and saying if this is the Connor Bedard that we get more and more this year, then it's going to be a very fun season for the Blackhawks, and a very fun start it has been for the Blackhawks as they're now 5-3-2 through their opening 10 games. Thought this was a real big 2 points, though, to go and get on home ice. Again, following one that kind of slipped out of their grasp against a team on the back end of a back-to-back in Los Angeles on Sunday. Ottawa was on the back end of a back-to-back here as well. Didn't, go as smoothly throughout the course of the 60-minute contest as I'm sure Jeff Blashill and the Blackhawks squad would have liked. But regardless, love to see once again the resiliency from this team when the game came down to the wire. Love to see Connor Bedard be the one to step up in crunch time, and clearly on a night where he had his best stuff and the puck was jumping off of his stick. And as he even kind of said after the game, sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't. He had 9 shots on goal, a career high the previous weekend against the Anaheim Ducks. None of them ended up finding the back of the net. But here tonight, it just seemed like things were going his way, and I love to see him capitalize on that despite once again, maybe not being in an ideal situation in the lineup. Did have Andre Burakovsky up with him on the top line once again, and I did think Burakovsky had a pretty sound game as well with 2 assists and showed off his wheels and his passing abilities on both of them. But obviously, Ryan Green starting the game up on the top line was a little bit tough for Bedard. As Green, no knock on him, he's just obviously not a top line caliber player. Bertuzzi, by the way, who was back in the lineup despite, Blashill saying he was doubtful during Monday's practice session. He was healthy enough to go after missing the previous game to an upper body injury. I figured if he was going to play, he'd replace Ryan Green up on that top line with Bedard and Burakovsky. That's a trio that's fared well so far this season, but for whatever reason, Blashill did, give Ryan Green the first opportunity on that top line, which I don't think was really the soundest decision, but I do understand the Blackhawks current forward situation, trying different things. Nothing has really worked along with Bedard this year. And coming into this game, Colton Dach, Jason Dickinson, and Landon Slaggert, who actually ended up being healthy, scratched, which was a little bit surprising to me. Sam Lafferty drew back into the lineup, but that trio had a good night against Los Angeles, probably the most effective bunch against the Kings in that one in terms of the analytics. So I thought that's why Colton Dach wasn't going to get a shot on the top line, because he was going to remain on that third line with Jason Dickinson and Landon Slaggert. That didn't wind up being the case, but despite, Connor Bedard consistently having a rotation of wingers up on the top line once again here this season, which has been was an issue for him through his first 2 NHL campaigns, still finds a way to have one of the best performances of his NHL career, carrying the Blackhawks to a big 7-3 win over the Ottawa Senators. Also want to make sure to point out that Bedard, not only was it his first NHL hat trick, he also scored his 50th career NHL goal on that beautiful second tally of the evening. He became just the 7th player in Blackhawks franchise history to record 50 goals before reaching the age of 21, joining elite company of Eddie Olczyk, Jeremy Roenick, Jonathan Toews, Bobby Hull, Dennis Savard, and Patrick Kane. You ever heard of those guys, Blackhawks fans? In case you didn't know already, Connor Bedard is a special, special player, and he looks much improved compared to his first 2 NHL seasons. And boy, has it been fun to watch that unfold right in front of our eyes. Clearly already possesses one of the best releases in the entire league, despite still only being 20 years old. That was on full display last night. So was the skill. So was the swagger. He carries the Blackhawks to a big-time win in their final home game until November 12th. What a night to remember for Connor Bedard and all of us Blackhawks fans. Is his first NHL hat trick. lifts the Blackhawks to a big win. Coming up in just a moment, it wasn't just Bedard, though, who made a key impact in the Blackhawks' victory last night. In just a moment here, I'll break down some other standout performances and key takeaways from the United Center. But first, I got to talk to you all about one of today's sponsors, which is Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is go and cheer on your team. But that's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. So go and take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Go and download the Game Time app now, create an account, and then use our promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get $20 off on your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL to get $20 off. Real quick, as always, just a reminder, if you're watching on YouTube right now, to please go smash that like button and subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. If you enjoy what you're watching here today or on a consistent basis, thank you all greatly for your constant support, Blackhawks fans. Segment 2, still got a handful of other takeaways from the United Center last night that I wanted to get into on today's show. First and foremost, despite the Blackhawks coming away with a win, finally beating a team that's on the back end of a back-to-back, traveling to the United Center, there were still second period issues that nearly cost the Blackhawks this game. They jumped out to a 3-0 advantage early on in the opening 20 minutes, and they continue to be able to take advantage of teams on the back end of a back-to-back very early on in these contests, only to go and give it all right back, allow the opposing team to get right back into the game. And this was a very similar vibe to Sunday against Los Angeles. That one, obviously, the Hawks were only up 1-0 going into the first intermission. This one, they had a much more commanding lead, up 3-0, and they actually would go on to extend it 4-0, thanks to Connor Bedard's second goal of the evening. But you could tell that things were starting to trend in the right direction in the opening minute of that middle frame, as just like Sunday against the Kings, where Wyatt Kaiser took a penalty in the opening minute, Sam Rinzel committed a penalty in the open minute of the second period against the Sens. And then a couple of sloppy defensive mistakes and breakdowns led to rushes and way too much open ice for the Sens that allowed them to claw right back into this game. Kind of a fluky goal kicked off the scoring for Ottawa, but then Michael Amadio gets way too much time and space in the offensive zone after kind of a breakdown in communication from Wyatt Kaiser and Artem Levshinov. And then just a couple of moments after that, Kaiser has a little lackadaisical moment in the neutral zone, extends himself to a puck that he couldn't get to, leading to a 2-on-1 going the other direction for Ottawa. And it's Timmy Stützle who went absolute top cheddar past Spencer Knight's glove to suddenly cut the Blackhawks lead down to 4-3. And then, Jeff Blashill challenged for offsides on this play, which even he kind of said after the game was one he probably wants back. As the Blackhawks didn't end up winning this challenge, that then put them on the penalty kill and gave the Senators, who, by the way, entered this game with the top power play in the NHL, an opportunity to go and tie up the game. But a massive kill there from the Blackhawks kind of killed off the momentum there for a little bit. And a huge credit to the Blackhawks penalty kill in this one, going up against the league's top power play. They were in the penalty box 4 times once again. I wish they could have, limited it down to 2 or 3 trips to the sin bin, but ended up killing off all 4 penalties. And they also had a 2-on-0 shorthanded rush from Nick Foligno and Frankie Nazar that would have been great for them to bury and get that first shorthanded goal of the season, something that Blashill has been talking about. He wants to see this team create a little bit more, and they do want to score well shorthanded, and he thinks they have, the makeup to do so with Frankie Nazar's speed, Ilya Mikheyev's speed, same with Teuvo Teravainen. It's a reason why some of you may remember I predicted the Blackhawks to be top 5 in the NHL in shorthanded goals this season as part of my bold predictions episode. Not exactly off to the best of starts in that direction, but I do still feel confident that as this group continues to get more and more comfortable with Blashill's new PK system that he's implementing, those scoring chances are going to come with the way that those forwards in particular can buzz around on the ice and make things happen with their wheels. Huge shout out to the penalty kill for helping stop that momentum for the Senators in that second period. But yeah, this game was far too close for, I'm sure, Blashill's liking, for my liking for sure. Same with all the Blackhawks fans in attendance at the UC. After the 3-goal output in the first, they gave the Blackhawks a massive standing ovation as they headed into the dressing room. The same that could be said heading into the second intermission, as this game got way too close for comfort. But like I mentioned, Connor Bedard comes up in the clutch with his third goal of the evening to put the Blackhawks back ahead by 2. That kind of gave them some breathing room when they needed it for the remainder of the contest. But in addition to Bedard's obvious goal-scoring prowess that was on display last night, one thing that Blashill also talked about that I wanted to bring up here on the show is how Bedard hasn't been cheating to get these offensive opportunities, and how his breakout here tonight came as a result of good habits that he's instilling on the ice, becoming a better two-way player, being more responsible on the defensive side of things. And while I don't think that's ever going to be what Connor Bedard is known for and what his biggest strength is, if he wants to be a top-line center in particular in this league, he has to handle himself better in defensive situations that he did in his first 2 seasons. And I feel like he's gotten off to a good start in doing that this year. I also want to give him a shout out for having a second consecutive solid night at the faceoff dot, winning over 60% of his draws for a second straight contest. That now puts him up to 43% on the season. And listen, that's still not exactly where we want Connor Bedard to be, but after being at 36, 37% in his first 2 campaigns, we're seeing the signs of progress. He's still not, taking a ton of draws every single night. I believe he only had 5 faceoffs total last night, but it still feels like he's making improvements in just all areas of his game, which is exactly what you want to see out of a 20-year-old kid who's just gaining more and more experience, getting some more help around him for the first time, even though it's not, necessarily happening on his own line. I do think Andre Burakovsky has been pretty sound in his first season with the Blackhawks, and that's been a pleasant surprise. However, the rotation at left wing, aside from Tyler Bertuzzi with Colton Dock and Ryan Green, Ryan Donato's only played up there for 1 game, as I talked about on yesterday's show, despite those 2 establishing a really good chemistry with each other last season. I still don't feel like Bedard has been put in the best situations to absolutely go and thrive, but he's making the most of it regardless. And with his 4-point effort last night, is now tied for the Blackhawks team lead in goals and also leads them on the season with 12 points. And I love to see him get credited by Blashill for the hard work that he continues to do, and how, well, he doesn't like but loves to score goals, as Nick Foligno put it. Blashill always shouts him out for wanting to win more than anything, more than he wants to score goals, more than he wants to put up points, more than he wants to achieve these milestones. And I think that's been evident here this season. In addition to his feistiness, his leadership, I feel like, is stepping up as well. And I just think he seems so much more confident and comfortable and better than ever in year 3, which is a scary thought for the other 31 NHL clubs. Some other players, though, I definitely wanted to shout out last night that were key in the Blackhawks 7-3 win. Huge shout out to Captain Nick Foligno. Didn't have, I wouldn't say, because he only played 13 or 14 minutes. Maybe you could have missed out on it with everything that was happening with Bedard in the Blackhawks offense, but I feel like Nick Foligno and what he did last night, providing 2 apples, chipping in with 4 hits, 2 block shots, had that opportunity along with Frankie Nazar. I just felt like it was his best performance of the season here so far. Great to have him, of course, back in the lineup here for this couple of stretch of games. He's going to be big in a leadership role as the Hawks go on this upcoming 6-game road trip, but felt like it was a notable night for Nick Foligno, and he also registered his 600th career NHL point with a secondary assist on the Blackhawks opening goal. And it also comes against the team that drafted him in the first round way back in the 2006 NHL draft. So I'm sure that had to feel good for Nick Foligno. My second star of the game, though, Blackhawks fans, just ahead of Foligno. And quite honestly, I did have a tough time dictating who was going to be the second star of this game because there were several multi-point performances. I thought there were a lot of players who made an impact, as I'll get to here in just a second. But Louis Crevier might have had his night overshadowed the most by Bedard's big night, which he joked about in the locker room after saying he was fuming about it on the bench. Just love the character that Louis Crevier always is, and love that he got an opportunity to talk to him. The media, as you know, a big defensive-minded defenseman, doesn't get those opportunities all too frequently. But yeah, Louis Crevier, what a night it was for Big Lou. Tallied 2 points, his first multi-point performance of his career in the opening 7.5 minutes of this contest, and was a prime example of how good things happen when you put the puck on net. And just made 2 real simple plays in the opening 20 minutes to get the Blackhawks going on home ice. The first goal just fires a slapper on net that Colton Dach goes and jumps on the rebound. Then on the second one, again, just whipping the puck on net from what looked like, a harmless angle, traffic out in front of Linus Ullmark, ends up finding its way through. That gives Louis Crevier his second goal of the season, which actually leads all Blackhawks defensemen now, and only he and Sam Rinzel are the only blue liners to find the back of the net. Louis Crevier, for a guy who's been in the seventh defenseman role, not only this year as a first time in his first full NHL season, but going back to last year when he got NHL action, for whatever reason, it feels like this guy's shot just has a tendency to find the back of the net. But I thought this was, while Crevier has been quietly good for the Blackhawks in that seventh defenseman role this season, this to me was undoubtedly his best performance with a multi-point night. Also chipped in for 3 hits and tallied a season high with just over 15 minutes of ice time in this game. Love to see Crevier wind up on the stat sheet and make an impact in a couple of different ways and serve as a reminder that good things happen when you put the puck on net. Also mentioned in segment 1 that, Tyler Bertuzzi, was healthy enough to return to the lineup in this game. Played on the second line with Teuvo Teravainen and Frankie Nazar. And while Teravainen was one of, Bertuzzi, but also Teravainen, they were 2 of the 3 players along with Sam Lafferty, 2 of the 3 forwards, I should say, along with Sam Lafferty, who didn't register a point in this game. I did think Bertuzzi was noticeable all throughout his return to the lineup. In the opening 20 minutes, he had a couple of real quality opportunities to get on the stat sheet. The first one, the puck unfortunately just jumped over his blade when he was going to stuff it home from a tough angle. And then the second one, his redirect on a Frankie Nazar shot from the point, which I wanted to be sure to bring this up on the show as well. I don't know if anyone out there knows exactly what play I'm talking about because it didn't lead to a goal for the Blackhawks, but it happened in the first period, and it was a page out of the Tampa Bay Lightning's playbook that I want to see the Blackhawks utilize more with Frankie Nazar and Connor Bedard in particular. It's in the offensive zone when you either win a faceoff, specifically at the right dot because both Bedard and Nazar are right-handed, or if you're just cycling in the offensive zone. An easy play we've seen Nikita Kucherov do with the Tampa Bay Lightning for a while is go to the high point and just fire a one-timer on net with traffic out in front because, again, good things happen when you put the puck on net. That was, I don't have a replay to go and pull up for you all here, and I don't know if many people know what I'm talking about. But that was, again, just a simplified play that I think Tampa has had success with for years and years and years. Blashill, I feel like, has carried that over here with the Blackhawks and is something I definitely want to see them run a little bit more frequently, especially when Tyler Bertuzzi's on the ice, because I just love how this guy goes to the dirty areas. He doesn't back down. He does all the little things that you need out of these types of players to be a good team. And while Bertuzzi didn't end up on the stat sheet, he played a big-time role in both Louis Crevier's tally and Connor Bedard's first of his 3 goals on the evening there in the opening 20 minutes, providing a perfect screen out in front. And then late in the game, love to see Bert, when the Senators, frustrations were boiling a little bit, love to see him not back down from Nick Cousins, who kind of took a run on him, and then go and give him some good haymakers along the glass and wind up with the last laugh in that situation. But what Bert provides for this Blackhawks team is just so essential. And I loved what Blashill said about him after the game, saying he's a foxhole guy. He's a guy you want in your foxhole. And he said, I've known Bert for a while, and I'll take him on every single team I coach forever. And I couldn't agree more, because Tyler Bertuzzi is just such a heart and soul and character type of guy. And plays a big role in many different ways for this Blackhawks team with his feistiness, his net front presence, scoring those greasy goals, providing big-time screens like he did last night. Loved the impact that Bertuzzi made in his return to the lineup. Thought he was really key and missed definitely in the Hawks' loss on Sunday. Also wanted to give a shout-out to Colton Dach. Finally scores his first goal of the season. Had, a handful of good opportunities to do so in his opening 9 games. The one that really got away from him was against the Tampa Bay Lightning, where literally all he had to do, Happy Gilmore style, was just go and tap it in. Tap, tap, tap-a-roo. But finally, Doc was able to bury that elusive first goal of the year last night to kick off the scoring for the Blackhawks and doing exactly what a power forward should do, and that's drive the net with a purpose and go and clean up the loose change. He jumps on Louis Crevier's rebound on a simplified play to go and get that first goal of the season. Also love to see that Doc chipped in for a team high 6 hits in this game, continues to lead all rookies in that category, and continues to serve a key role for the Blackhawks as well, because while Bertuzzi will go and mix it up, he won't back down, he'll go to the net front, he just doesn't have the same type of size and strength that Colton Dach is. I mean, Colton Dach is a massive human being, 6'4", well over 200 pounds, and the one real power forward outside of maybe Nick Foligno, and I give him credit for his power forward prowess being on display last night. Colton Dach is really the only true power forward that the Blackhawks had, and he's now played like that, I thought, in back-to-back games after a little bit of a quiet stretch there that got him demoted from the Blackhawks top line. I thought he's made an impact in each of these last 2 games. Ryan Donato, his line with Dach and Dickinson didn't really do all that much, and analytically they did not fare well on the evening. However, do want to give Donato a shout out for scoring for the 6th time now in his last 6 games. Did have his 5-game point streak and 4-game goal streak snapped in the loss to Los Angeles, but bounces back and finds the back of the net once again. He's now tied with Bedard for the team lead in goals with 6 on the season. That was also a huge insurance goal in the third period when, momentum was back on the Blackhawks side, but the game was still, up in the air. The Senators were only down 2 and clearly had made a nice surge early on in the contest. So, earlier on in the contest, I should say. So, love to see Ryan Donato wind up finding the back of the net again and also chipping in with 4 hits. And then Andre Burakovsky, I already talked about it a little bit, but the reason why, excuse me, I liked his addition on the team's top power play unit is because his speed and his size, the Blackhawks have really struggled with entries. Well, he had a great zone entry at 5-on-5 that led to Ryan Donato's insurance goal. And if you go back and watch that clip, the dipsy doodle that Burakovsky does and the edge work that he utilizes before dropping that puck off to Bedard, his skating ability is very, very impressive for a player of his size. And then he's also been very effective on the man advantage this year. And not only in the entries because of his size and speed, but with his playmaking, which has been a little bit surprising. And that was shown clearly with a marvelous pass to set up Bedard for his opening goal. You could see Bedard point over to Burakovsky and say, nice effing pass. So key contributions like that for Burakovsky, those will be big in Connor Bedard taking the next step in his 3rd NHL season as well. And it looks like at this point, Blashill wants to continue putting Burakovsky along with Bedard. I think they've clicked really well. It's just kind of now about finding that third forward to go and round out that top line trio. Felt like a night where every single player on the Blackhawks roster made an impact. Nice way to pick up 2 points on home ice for the final time that they'll be there up until November 12th. 15 days between their next home contest as the Hawks have an upcoming 6-game road trip. And also, of course, nice to get the win in Connor Bedard's milestone night, scoring his 50th NHL goal and his first NHL hat trick. And also nice to get the win on Artem Levshinov's 20th birthday. Artie picked up an assist in this game, got the 2 points for the win. And then also, as I shared on Instagram, got a birthday cake from the Blackhawks during their post-game celebration that Wyatt Kaiser shared with everyone on Instagram. Awesome night for the Blackhawks at the United Center. Big time win. There is everything from last night's performance over the Senators. Coming up in just a moment, speaking of epic wins, I'll break down another one with the IceHogs dominating the Chicago Wolves yesterday. Segment 3, the Rockford IceHogs had a matinee matchup at the Allstate Arena yesterday, taking on the Chicago Wolves. And like the Blackhawks, it was also an offensive explosion for the IceHogs, particularly in the first period, led by who else but Nick Lardis and Oliver Moore. And Lardis kicked off the scoring in the opening minute, burying a one-timer from captain Brett Seney for his third goal of the game. Then, also less than 6.5 minutes in, Oliver Moore also potted yet another goal, his 6th of the year in just his eighth game, going to the dirty area and cleaning up a nice feed from Brett Seney to go and put it into a yawning cage. And then Lardis double dipped in the opening 20 minutes as well, going and scoring a shot from down low at the left dot off of the rush. Second goal of the game, 4th of the season for Lardis. The IceHogs potted 4 goals in the opening 20 minutes. They also added another 2 early on in the second to race out to a 6-0 advantage. The Wolves would get on the board to make this one a 6-1 final, but just how impressive do Moore and Lardis continue to be, both at just 20 years of age in their first professional campaigns. And for Nick Lardis in particular, I've been really impressed with how seamless the transition has been for him to this level. Now, it did take him a couple of games to get settled, but he's been on an absolute heater over these last 4 to 5 games, and he's now tied for the AHL lead in points with 12 on the season. And as an undersized player who didn't have a taste of professional hockey like Oliver Moore did, even though it was only 9 games last year, he's the smaller of the two players. Moore is a little more built out and meant to have, or made for, to have a little bit more success right from the jump, but both of them have been absolutely marvelous. And how about the goal scoring uptick that we've seen from Oliver Moore? Did not think he'd be finding the back of the net as frequently as he has here through these opening 8 games, tied for the AHL lead in goals. I never really considered Oliver Moore to be like a special goal scoring threat. We didn't really see that from him, at least on a consistent basis, in his opening or his only 2 years of college hockey with the Minnesota Golden Gophers. But boy, oh boy, Oliver Moore looks like a different offensive player than I kind of expected. Now, this is at the AHL level, still a little bit of a small sample size, but what these kids are doing right from the jump, outscoring every other rookie in the AHL by a pretty handed margin so far here this season. It's incredible stuff. As I've talked about on the show, just more and more reminders of how bright the future is for the Blackhawks. But these two kids, with the way that they're rolling down in Rockford, the Blackhawks don't really have open forward spots to go and put these guys in the lineup, but they might have to make some room for them, particularly for Oliver Moore, who I feel like, again, is because of his defensive prowess, his pace, the way that he can impact the game in all 3 zones, is probably the one who is going to get called up first, in my opinion. However, there's been that revolving door of wingers that Connor Bedard has had through his first 3 NHL seasons, and could Nicky Lardis be the answer for that? That is seemingly an open spot for the Blackhawks, even though they don't necessarily have a lot of room or transactions to make in the forward group on their NHL roster. With the way that Nick Lardis is balling out, with the way that Oliver Moore is scoring goals while also utilizing his speed to make an impact both offensively and defensively, I'm very curious how Kyle Davidson is going to handle this situation. Now, he's obviously remained very patient with his prospects since taking over as general manager, but he also called up Frank Nazar last year when he was thriving at the AHL level. It feels like both of these players are doing the same thing. Obviously, they don't have the sample size yet that Nazar had last year, but I believe Frank only played in 21 AHL games before getting called up to the show. And I projected that Oliver Moore is going to appear in 50 NHL games this season. Now, when I gave out that bold prediction, I don't know if I necessarily did a great job of envisioning the Blackhawks forward group and potentially not having an open spot for Oliver Moore. It's why I didn't think he was going to make the team out of camp, but I still feel like just because the kids are the priority, Kyle Davidson is going to make something happen if he feels like Oliver Moore can truly go and help this team right here, right now, win more games. And if Nick Lardis keeps this up, I still think they're going to be a little bit more patient with him in particular between the two. But he might be forcing the front office's hand as well if he's able to keep this kind of stuff up. The 2 most impactful rookies in all of the AHL have been Oliver Moore and Nick Lardis so far this year, as again, Lardis now is tied for the league lead with 12 points, while Oliver Moore is tied for the league lead with 6 goals. That's going to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks, everyone. As always, thank you all again for joining me on the show. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. Go and follow Locked On Blackhawks on Instagram as well, as I've been posting a lot more content on that account here as of late. If you want to check me out on Twitter, my personal is at Jack Bushman 2. You can check out my Strictly Blackhawks account at Talkin' Hockey. Until the next episode, everyone, be on the lookout. Tomorrow's episode is going to be a fun first 10-game breakdown into the stats and analytics for every member of the Chicago Blackhawks, as well as a preview of the matchup against Jonathan Toews in the Winnipeg Jets up in Winnipeg on Thursday night. Until then, everyone enjoy the rest of your days. I'll see you next time on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.